You could tell us more what you learned from your time.
Yeah. Well, So I've told you some of the really absurd stories, and I tell the stories. They're actually stories that I'm working on for a book, simply because they point to the depth of devastation in the educational sector in Nigeria. So as I said, a lecturer at Unilag had told me that the students were not serious. So he was justifying doing what's widely known as sorting, okay, where parents actually provide funds for their children to bribe lecturers for grades during exam season. And of course, we know that there's this plague of sexual misconduct by lots and lots of lecturers, mostly male, but I understand that some female lecturers also participate in all of this, exploiting their students sexually for grades. So I walked into my first class, having had this encounter with this lecturer who told me that that it was normal to accept or to give to accept money for grades. So I said to my students, I taught 3 classes at Unilag, so I spoke to each of the 3 classes and I said to them, listen, I've heard this story. I want you to know that I take my job as your teacher seriously. I said, I want to make the subject literature exciting for you. And I said, but I want you to meet me halfway. I'm going to work very, very hard, but I want you to work hard as well. I said, but I want you to understand so that you won't say at the end that you were not one from the outset. I said, I don't accept any financial or sexual gratification from my students, from anybody for that matter. And so I thought I had given fair warning. So a few weeks into the semester, I finished teaching one night class, and I would drive myself home to where my family and I were residing. So as I was getting into my car, 2 women walked up to me. This was a night class, and said, "Oh, sir, could you give us a ride to the gate of Unilag, which is a ways from the classrooms?" I said, "Sure, get in the car." So as soon as I got in the car, they said to me, "Sir, did you mean what you said that you didn't take sexual or financial gratification from students?" I said, "Of course, I find such conduct contemptible." So they said to me that there are some women in their class. These are adult women, by the way, and that they get by bribing lecturers with their bodies, and that those women had said that I'll be the easiest to fall. So I said to them, well, the only way I fall is if they were able to rape me. And I said it's not going to be easy. I said it's not going to be easy. And so I dropped them off at the gate and waved them off and went home. The next week, I finished classes, and this young, beautiful student came to me and said, "Sir, could you give me a ride?" I assumed that she was going to the gate, that's of Unilag. So I asked her to get in the car. So she got in the car, and of course there was traffic within the campus from all the students, again, who are adult students who have their own cars and who took classes and were going home. And also some men coming in to, pick women up from the campus. So a considerable traffic jam. And so the car was moving slowly. And suddenly this student in my passenger seat pointed to a building, and she says, "That's my dormitory." So for a moment, I thought I misheard. I said to her, are you saying that's where you stay? She said, yeah, that's my dormitory. So in my mind, I said, then why is she in my car? Where am I taking her? So I pulled the car to the side of the road and I said, okay, good night. And so she sat there looking at me and she says to me, sir, are you serious that I should get down? And I said to her, this is your dorm, right? She said, yes. I said, yeah, get down and go to your dorm. And she said to me, sir, what will I go and do there? And I said, it is not my business to tell you what you do in your room. I said, but since you asked already, go and read the next book that we'll read for next week. And she said, is that all? So I at this point, I raised my voice. I said, please get out of my car. My family is waiting for me at home to have dinner. Get out. So she got out. So, what I didn't tell is that, my first day in class, to show the students my commitment to teaching, after telling them that I will not accept sexual or financial bribes, I wrote my telephone number, my mobile number on the board. Mm-hmm. And I said, if I teach any book, any literary concept, and you don't understand it, please call me on this number. I said, I'll make as much time as possible to sit down and explain things to you until it's clear to you, right? So as a mark of my commitment. So all my students had my number. So I was driving, and then I got flashed twice. So flashing is, again, Nigerian language for when somebody calls you and cuts off the phone so that you call them back and you take the cost.
Yes.
So I didn't know who this person was, but I said, okay, I could afford to call them back. So I called back, and it was this woman that I had left on the campus. So she said to me, sir, you dropped me here and there is nothing happening. So I said to her, so what would you want to happen? And she said, sir, I want to sit down and talk with you. And I said, and where are we going to do this talk? She said, sir, anywhere you want. And I said, and what are we going to be talking about? She said, life in general. So I told her, I said, listen, I don't teach life in general. I teach literature. And I said, if you have a question about life in general, maybe some philosopher would understand it. So I said, you should take it to some philosopher. But if you have a literature question, I said, bring it to class. And she said to me, sir, is it a crime to love? I said, it depends on who is doing the loving. She said she was. And I said, and who are you loving? She said she was loving me. So I said, no, you can't love me because I'm married. And she said, sir, but I'm not asking you to leave your wife. So I said to her, I'm not going to let you borrow me from my wife for even a second. And I said, if you don't like that answer, my wife also teaches at Unilag in the art department. I said, go there and tell her that you would like to borrow her husband. And my wife would have Bianca'd her, if you know what I mean, giving her what we call in Nigeria a dirty slap. But I said to her, but if it turned out that my wife was in a comedic mode and she told you, yeah, go and borrow my husband, I said, still, I'm not available to you, period. And then she said, sir, why do you hate me so much? So I said to her, I don't hate you, nor do I love you. I said, you are my student. My only interest in you is as a student, as your teacher. And I said, so as long as you have questions related to literature, to the books and the concept that I'm teaching, I'm interested. I said, beyond that, you are absent to me. And she said to me, I saw you give a ride last week to 2 women. You can't tell me that nothing happened. So I said to her, I could actually tell you that easily. I said, those 2 women asked me to drop them off at the gates at Unilag. I dropped them off. They took some other form of public transportation to go to their various destinations. So I said to her, when you asked me for a ride, I assumed I was dropping you at the gate at Unilag. When I found out that you lived on campus and you were in my car, I stopped the car and asked you to get off. It's interesting that in the course of the semester, this young woman will call me from time to time. And on one occasion, she called me and said, sir, it's not good though that you are wickeding me.
Yeah, right.
You know. So I'd never seen a situation where a student was more insistent, so insistent, that she wanted to be sexually exploited for grade. And so some years ago, I was talking with a friend of mine in Abuja, and he said to me a phrase that I wrote an article about, which is not original to me. He said, yeah, that a lot of students in Nigeria have sexually transmitted degrees. Sexually transmitted degrees. And pause and think about it for a moment.